Welcome to the Confidently Balance Your Hormones podcast. My name is Dee Davidson, and I'm a hormone health expert, master mindset coach, and multiple wellness business entrepreneur. I'm obsessed with helping you experience hormone balance, confidence, self-love, and live a life full of joy. I know we're about to have so much fun together, so thank you so much for pushing play today. And now let's begin. Welcome to another episode of Confidently Balance Your Hormones. This is your guide, Dee Davidson, and today I've invited my past client, Kelly, to join us. Kelly is a 48-year-old wife and mother to two teenage boys, ages 14 and 17. Kelly also manages her family DJ and event management business from home, and I'd say she's pretty busy. Don't you have a dog too, Kelly?
I do, yep.
So she also has a dog, and I asked Kelly to jump on this episode to share her experience with me because she is a prime example of how sometimes just learning the foundationals of hormone balance and learning what your body needs given the time that you're in your life is all it takes to feel so much better. So I will add that Kelly is a great student. It does take participation. I tell people I can give you all of the knowledge and the tools, but at the end of the day, the student is the one doing, and that makes a big difference. So Kelly's a great student of all things health, and she'll talk a little bit about that as we go along. I never got any whining or complaining from her, which is lovely. You're such an ideal client, Kelly. I love that you're so positive and willing, and she's always eager to learn, do, in order to feel better. So welcome, Kelly, to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you, Dee. I appreciate you having me.
So tell us a little bit about where you were with your health when we met at the networking event, and what were you kind of looking to improve? What was not so happy in your life with your health?
Sure. So I had started during COVID kind of working out, and I had joined a boot camp class, but the thing that was really missing was my diet and the things that I was feeding my body with. I thought I was doing the right thing for myself. I thought less was more. I thought, I could just have a quick protein shake and that would make everything okay. And I was achy. I was, at times getting hurt. I was gaining weight. I was like, what is going on? Is this what they say? Oh, I'm coming into perimenopause. Am I just feeling, is this
just part of the age, right?
Right? Yeah, is this supposed to happen? And then, fast forward, I was probably like 8 or 9 months into feeling really crappy. And, I went to one of your networking events. I wanted to just kind of network with other, women and in business. And that's when you really we met for the first time, right?
Yes.
We had known mutual friends, had seen each other on socials probably, but I hadn't actually met you. And then I kind of learned about your journey and what you were doing. And it piqued my interest. And that's when I reached out and I said, you know what? I can't stand feeling achy anymore. I can't stand where I'm at with my weight. How can Dee help me?
And one of my favorite sayings is, it's our birthright to feel our best and live our best life. And so many people, especially women, I feel like women put everyone else and everything else above themselves. And the doctor says, well, you are at a different stage in your life and this is just the way it is. So we just kind of accept sometimes that, oh, my sleep's going to be crappy. I'm going to have these aches and pains that you mentioned. And, doesn't have to be that way. I have clients who are 60 and have more energy and more vitality than some 20-year-olds. So it's all about really fine-tuning and finding the people that will support us on our journey. So I'm sure the listeners might be thinking, all right, so she meets Dee at this networking event, which, by the way, is fabulous, right? And if anyone is local to Mass or Rhode Island and wants to join us for some business networking opportunities, we always welcome you. But they're probably wondering, okay, so she meets Dee at the networking event, and then let's take the listeners through the process of working with me. So you heard me say what at the networking event that you thought like, okay, Dee might be able to to help me? What was it specifically that you heard me talk about?
Yeah. So I was actually talking to my friend Cheryl, who I had actually invited because it was, kind of invite whoever. She's local. She owns a dance studio local. And she was telling me about her process. And I think in that conversation at dinner, um, at lunch, she mentioned something about, oh, yes, I'm working with a functional medicine doctor, and he's got me on, a high protein diet, this, that, and the other thing. And I think you stepped in and said, well, it's not all about high protein. It's actually about how your body works with, your metabolism and finding out what your, you know, I forget what the name of it is, and I know you can tell me, but I'm a mixed oxidizer, and
The
we
metabolic typing. Yep.
metabolic typing. Thank you. So you said it's all about your metabolic typing, and I'm like, huh. Well, that makes sense, right? We don't all have the same blood type. We don't all have the same body makeup, but there obviously has to be something that connects with all of that makes us who we are and helps us, be our best, right? So that's kind of
Yes.
what, I said, oh, it's not just all about all these supplements and adding more protein to your diet. What is it? And I think you kind of led the conversation in a way that said, there's a little bit more to it. Obviously she's gone through a lot of testing too, but, you talked about the testing and things that you can do to help guide you, which is what I needed.
I love that. And you hit the nail right on the head with we're not all the same. And that I think is the most frustrating thing that I hear from women is, well, my sister is 2 years older than me and this worked for her and it's not working for me. Or, all of these doctors or influencers say that high protein diet, keto, HIIT workouts, all of these things, right, are the way to go when you're in perimenopause or menopause or postmenopause and it's not working for me. Well, that's because we're all so unique. Why are we treating ourselves like everybody else? It is important. And thanks for bringing up the metabolic type. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But, you've heard my story of I was eating high protein. I actually ended up at a urologist for blood in my urine. And the first question that the urologist asked me was how much protein I was eating and was I drinking protein shakes and taking protein supplements because I'm actually a slow oxidizer, which slow oxidizers do not process protein very quickly. And I was taxing my system. So be careful, ladies out there, with what advice you're getting and what you're doing because everyone is so very different and knowing your bio-individual needs or you're getting personalized protocols and things is so, so important.
Absolutely.
So you came to me and you said, all right, Dee, you're hired. And this was a while ago that we started working together and you've been out of my program
Right.
for
Right.
some months now.
Yeah.
But do you remember the acronym DRESS that I use?
Oh,
DRESS?
barely.
Do you remember what the D stands for? It's the stuff that you were just talking about.
No,
So
I don't.
this is typically what I do and what I did with Kelly, and people might not even realize that I did this, but I do have a foundational system that I work with all of my clients on because most people, actually, I don't think I've ever had anyone come to me and hire me and have someone go through these all together. And the pieces of our whole health are all very much interconnected. So if you're working with one person on nutrition, another person on exercise, another person on supplements, it's really hard to tie all that together. So we work on all of that together with this acronym DRESS, and the D stands for diet. So let's take the audience through how we applied these, and you can just share your experience. This isn't a quiz, Kelly. It's just like, what did you change about your diet? Like we just talked about the metabolic typing. So you took the metabolic typing test, which was simply $139 online test, and you got
Correct.
this
Yeah.
food Bible, right, that tells you which proteins are best for Kelly's body, which carbs, specifically fruits, vegetables, all those things, and what things create your fuel mixture. You might remember that I describe it as your gasoline type, if you will. You go to the gas station and your car takes maybe 93, or maybe it takes diesel. But what happens, Kelly, if you put diesel in your car and it doesn't take diesel?
Yeah, that's not going
It doesn't work, right? So same thing with us. If we're eating a lot of fat or nuts and things and our body doesn't, our metabolic type doesn't support that, we're going to feel sluggish. We're going to gain weight. So metabolic typing, that's one of the things we worked on. But how did we work on the timing of your eating, how you're eating now? Just share a little bit about what changed with the timing of your eating,
work. Sure. Yeah.
magic
So,
plate.
yeah, first of all, like I was thinking I was doing things for myself that was just not fueling my body. First of all, I was the person who came in and said, I eat because I have to. I don't eat because I want to. And that was a big change mindset wise for me to say, I have to eat to fuel my body. Right. So you talked about even before the metabolic typing, the magic plate. And I started that right away. I said, okay, here's something that I can do, that I can try and do right away to make sure that I'm getting protein and my vegetables and carbs, and always having that green. That was a big thing for me. I got away from vegetables so much and got away from greens so much that my body was probably craving all of this and storing up so much fat that I was like gaining weight like crazy because I was having, you know, a protein shake that I thought was healthy, but it also had 10 grams of sugar, you know?
Right.
So really, even before the metabolic typing, before I learned what foods together would make me feel better, it was just step back, make sure that you've got the right foods on your plate, make sure you're eating enough, and make sure you're eating enough often enough, right? That was the other thing. I wasn't eating. I was probably going 6, 7 hours in between,
Wow.
not realizing that, you need to have a certain routine with food in order to keep your body fueled so it doesn't think you're starving it, right? It doesn't decide
Yes.
to, do all those things that, you know, and it was like an aha moment, right? It
Hmm.
took me, maybe a few of our, emails back and forth and things to kind of, really wrap my head around it.
Hmm.
But I think once I started that, before we did the metabolic typing, I was on a good path. Um, and it's, it's something that, you see often. Once you start doing things like that, then they become a habit, right? So,
Yes.
so now it's automatic. I eat within the first 2 hours of waking up. I have water before I do anything. I, make sure I have that magic plate at every meal. And it's helped me because now my body says, you're getting close to 4 hours. Don't forget, so I don't
Yeah.
even have to like schedule it in like I used to. It's just automatic. So,
Some great points that you make there. So, first of all, for the women who are listening, go, I'm just not hungry every 4 hours, or I'm not hungry when I wake up. That's because you have actually put your body into survival mode. So, your body is innately so smart that it says, let's not make Kelly hungry because she's probably stuck on an island or doesn't have food available to her, which isn't true, likely. It's just that you have now programmed your body to function this way, which then affects hormone imbalance. It creates stress on the body, spiking your cortisol and things like that, holding on to fat, stores fat, and you gain weight and you don't lose weight and you're frustrated because you only had one salad a day and why am I not losing weight? So it's very important. Blood sugar regulation is very important. Some really key points. And I love that you said you started before metabolic typing. 90% of my clients take the metabolic typing test because I'm such a believer in it, especially after seeing how it resonated with me and how I felt and how, oh my gosh, my whole life I've been going against my intuition. You know that I'm mind, body, spirit, and I feel that God has equipped us with everything that we need, universe, spirit, whoever you believe in. But we get in our brain and we get in the science and we go against it. But every time I think about how close that metabolic typing is to how I intuitively felt and ignored, it's just amazing. So I love that you said you, even before that, you started the magic plate. So the questions I want the listeners to ask themselves: are you having greens? That's the number one thing people aren't having. Greens, if you eat them off your plate first, it's going to help to absorb the the sugar spike from the carbs that are coming, right? Because you do need carbs. They're not the villain. Carbs produce energy. We're not eating pasta and cookies, but we're
Right.
eating good single ingredient carbs. Do you have a good carb on your plate? Do you have at least a palm size of protein on there? And some healthy fat. Healthy fat is what makes hormones. That's what they're created from. And women avoid fat, thinking if I eat fat, I'm going to get fat. But actually, that's not true. You don't need an abundance of fat, but you do need at least a thumb size of olive oil, coconut oil, avocado, maybe a solid nuts or seeds or solid avocado. But look at your plate and be honest with yourself. Are you having three, what I call magic plates a day? And are you eating every few hours to make sure your blood sugar does not crash? So that is step number one. Moving on
Super
to the,
important.
yeah, moving on to, and nutrition is so much. Nutrition heals. It can either heal you or it can create disease and inflammation really quickly. So those diet choices are right at the top of my acronym because they do so much. You can heal so much without supplements and prescriptions and things through nutrition. You just have to choose. It's a choice to do so and stick to it. Of course, it takes discipline. But
Right.
the next letter in our dress, like a dress you put on, is rest. So talk about share with us about your sleep routine, like what time you go to bed, and maybe anything you learned about having a routine or any sleep hygiene, I call it.
Sure. So I definitely was waking up way more throughout the night prior to working with you. And it's frustrating. Everybody gets frustrated. You see everybody post those things about, I'm up and, whatever in the middle of the night. Um, so I always kind of had a routine. I think that by changing the way I eat definitely helped me to stay asleep for the time that I went to bed. But I typically went to bed at 10, woke up at 7 or maybe earlier. But for the most part, my sleep schedule was, and I'm the type of person who needs my sleep. I have to go to bed at a certain time.
Amen, amen.
Yeah, I've always been that way. Even in college, people thought I was crazy. I took the 8 a.m. classes because I knew I would be asleep by 10. And
Yeah, me
um,
too.
yeah, so I definitely already had a good schedule. I think more so I consciously stayed consistent with it after having conversations with you. And then also the diet changes helped me to stay asleep. Um,
Mm,
so
amazing.
that was, I think, really the game changer there for me,
Hmm.
was really, I was satisfied. And so going to sleep, it helped me stay asleep.
Yes, and again, it goes back to blood sugar regulation and cortisol. If you didn't eat enough at night, what happens is you go to sleep and your blood sugar will spike, typically cortisol. So the blood sugar and cortisol correlation of like your blood sugar is not stable. So cortisol is your oh gosh, I got to rescue this person. It'll spike, and then you wake up in the middle of the night. So some great points there. Exercise. I'm excited to talk about this with you because you are a fun client when it comes to exercise. I'm wondering, are you still doing your classes? I'll let you talk about it, but I am a big believer in joyful movement. I was someone who used to use what I call forceful movement. I thought I have to do boot camp. I have to do these heavy weights to be fit and keep up with my metabolic needs at this age. And in my own holistic journey and what I pass on to my clients is that if you hate doing it, your cells are listening to you and it's not going to result in what you want. It's actually creating stress. So we talk about joyful movement. So what types of exercise do you incorporate?
Right. So, the one thing I love to do, and I always have loved to do, is to get out in nature. So that's number one. I always get outside, um, hopefully more often than not. I try as much as I can. When you work, everybody feels this way. Oh, I just don't have time. I try to make the time, and especially try to make the time for that walk right after I eat. Within 10 minutes after I eat, because I know that that's important for digestion. So even if I can get out in nature and just, do a 10-minute walk, I'm happy. But the biggest thing for me, I grew up as a dancer. So getting back to those dance roots was really something that I was kind of yearning for last year. And lo and behold, I don't know if I manifested it, but
You did,
what,
you did, you
but
did.
I did. Right. What popped up was somebody had shared with me that the local dance studio was doing adult tap classes again. They had stopped them during COVID, but was starting them back up again. And I was like, I am going to do this. And it was the best thing that I could have ever done for myself because even though I have a hard time at night, like especially when it's dark in New England, I have a hard time getting out, but I made sure that I was ready to go with my tap shoes and danced with about 20 adults. And,
That is
and it
so
was,
fun.
oh, it was so much fun. And now, unfortunately, it didn't continue throughout the year. It's going to start up again. So I'm excited to get that started up again. I've already been looking at new tap shoes. But that's something that brings me joy. And I completely agree with what you said about joyful movement, because the one thing that was always like in the back of my mind was this exercise is not fun for me. Why
Hmm.
can't exercise be fun? And it can.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I'll tell you, I had a blast and I can't wait to start it up again.
I love that. And movement is movement. So, we talk about strength training for women, and is it good? Yes, of course, because we are more fragile as we get older and it helps our metabolic rate and all of that stuff. But just movement in general, I'd rather see my clients having fun. Sounds like you tapped into your inner child a little bit there and connected
Yep,
with your inner child.
absolutely.
Uh, and that's important too, to feed the inner child, and bring back joy. We take life so seriously once we get to adulthood, and it's not that serious. Let's have some fun.
Absolutely.
I
Yep.
also love that you're going out in nature. That's one of the things I tell my clients is get outside for even 10 minutes and look at the sun. Don't put your headphones on. Connect, listen to the birds, be connected. We are so disconnected. The amount of people who don't even step outside their house other than driving somewhere is insane to me, and it's a huge health benefit to just get out in nature and connect and get grounded and do some earthing and things like that.
Absolutely. I just heard somebody say in a different podcast I was listening to, sunshine before social. And
I love it.
I thought that was like it's
I love it.
revolutionary, even though it's what I try to do. Don't look at even if your phone is your alarm, don't look at it. Just step outside, even if it's, New England in the winter, even if it's just daylight, sunshine before social, even just
I
for a
love
minute.
it.
If you have a minute, just do it. It changes your entire day, your
It
entire
does.
chemical reaction to your day.
It
It's amazing.
does. It does. So we're up to the first S, which is stress, and this is a big one. When people come to work with me, this is one that they often don't want to work on. They're like, "Oh, I don't have any stress." We all have stress, whether it be someone just cut you off on the road, or you had a client who was not so nice, or your child is struggling in school. We all have different stressors. I know that we worked on stress with you. You don't have to get into your personal stressors, but can you just say anything about working on that piece?
Sure. I think for me, a lot of I'm behind a computer and working on events and especially personal things for people can be stressful in the way that they want to do an event in the way that how the event should work. So sometimes, for me personally, I'm not going to respond to this email right now. I'm going to get up from
Ah,
my desk and I'm going to just walk away and go for a short walk and clear my head before I respond. Um, so for me, a lot of the stress was, when we're in the busy season and I've got 100 things going on, just making sure that you take the time to take a step back, take a deep breath, and then you can clear your head and move forward before you respond to what you think they should do, even though they're pushing back on you about what they think should be done.
right.
You know, you everybody has a different type of stress, like you said, but in my situation, that can be the one of the
The
biggest
big one.
stressors. Yeah.
So just sounds like you gained some tools from working with me in the COI community as to how to approach some of those situations. And
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in setting boundaries. Boundaries aren't bitchy.
Right.
Reflecting, you don't have to answer something right away. We work on a lot of those things that cause us stress. Well, a lot of stress we bring on to ourselves. And
Right.
that's what I really work on with my clients is to understand that sometimes we tell ourselves stories of what's going to happen that, will never happen. We create a lot more stress for ourselves than need be. And sometimes there are just stressors. Like I have clients who they're a little bit older and they're taking care of their parents now, and the parents are sick. So those are real stressors. But again, boundaries, what's in our control, that type of thing, because you can't trick the body. And if your body doesn't feel safe and it feels in a constant state of fight or flight or stress, you're
Right.
not going to release weight. You're not going to be able to sleep. You're not going to get rid of the inflammation. So rather than saying, I'm going to take a magic wand and take all the stress out of your life, which is impossible, we
Right.
work on tools and managing stress on a daily basis as opposed to just when we're at the elevated state of stress. Very important. I do believe that the root cause of all disease is stress.
Right.
And the last S is supplements. So I think you know how I feel about this, Kelly. Supplements
Yeah.
are no different than prescriptions in my world. A lot of people pop in things randomly, which can be very dangerous because you can accumulate high levels of things you don't need. They interact with one another. You can be wasting your money and just peeing the stuff out and pooping it out. So supplements we don't use unless we have a lab test that says we need to heal something or there's a
Right.
gap. And at this age, there might be some things that we need to supplement. So just share openly. Did I put you on a bunch of supplements? And maybe just share, what supplements you do take at a high level.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I wasn't put on a bunch of supplements. I think I was already taking collagen, for
Hmm.
instance.
Hmm.
Help the joints move. I mean, I think it's good for anybody. And I think you have already done the research in terms of what's best for your body. So I just switched to something that you have recommended. And then another something was which I'm actually not using anymore, but it was something I sprinkle on my food just to make sure that the gut is working properly when you're eating the food that you're eating. I can't remember what it was, but I haven't needed it. I felt like once I got into that routine, and it's going to be kind of gross, but once your stool is looking the way it needs to look and you're having that regularity, um, you don't need a lot more than what you're already doing for your body in a very helpful way.
That's right. That is so right. And um, I just think people are so confused, overwhelmed, not in tune with their body. And so when you come to me, my hope is that we get you back in tune with your body, that you're functioning out of a place of uh, consciousness, not what you heard on the radio or unconsciousness, and that you understand your body and we get your body, if you want to say, restored to factory settings, because you might have gotten away from that. We can use that term. So um, there you have it. That's DRESS, DRESS. Diet, rest, exercise, stress, and supplements are the foundationals. So when my clients say that they're having a symptom, I was sleeping well, but now like I've been disrupted, we go over the foundationals. You have to double down on the foundationals, not add more supplements, not go hire someone else, not go have more labs done. We have to double down. And so you can see that Kelly had these major improvements in the 3 months that we worked together. That's typically how I start working with people one-on-one, is a 3 month increment, so you can see how far we can move the needle and how you feel and feel comfortable with me. And many of my clients, like Kelly, they find that once they fine tune these foundationals, they feel great and they don't need functional labs outside of metabolic typing. We tend to think like it's got to be a bigger problem than it really is. And I really urge people that come to me to start with these foundationals if they've never worked with a functional health practitioner or a hormone health expert. Now, if you have, or you have already had some labs done and you're frustrated, that's a different route. We will do a full fine tooth comb evaluation on what you've tried, what you've done, and then I do have the ability to order over 4,000 labs, interpret them, build protocols, things like that. But I wanted to have Kelly share her story because it doesn't have to be hard or overwhelming or daunting. And you can see some really substantial changes yourself like Kelly did. So thank you for sharing your story with the world today, Kelly, and
You're
inspiring more
welcome.
women to take charge of their health. I have one last question before we go. So
Okay.
what do you want to say to anyone that's considering working with me, but they're like, oh, I'm not sure, or the investment is kind of high?
I would say that probably spend more money on your healthcare than your well care, right?
Oh, I
And
like that.
so, yeah. And so when you think about it, you would spend less money on your health care if you paid attention to your well care. So that's what D does. You're paying attention to the wellness part of your life, which should be everything. And you're getting down to that nitty gritty of why are you feeling the way you're feeling? Believe me, my doctor was like, and I had, feelings of, maybe I have thyroid because my dad does. No, your levels are normal. Your levels are normal. Work with D, 3 months. I'm on a track. It's been a year. It's been almost a year since we started,
Wow, has it?
and I feel great. And so I would say make the investment in your well care, which is what D does.
There you have it, friends. The investment in your well care. I love it. I might start using that, Kelly. So thank you,
Go
Kelly,
for it.
again. I'm
Thank
so
you.
proud of you for doing the things for your mind, body, and your spirit.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Confidently Balancing Your Hormones. If you enjoyed today's episode, I'd love for you to share it with a friend and also hit follow at the top of this podcast. If you have a couple of minutes and you can leave a quick review, it will help other women in need find this podcast. You can find me on Instagram at confidently_love_yourself. I would love to stay connected and hear from you.